Is 38 too young to retire?
I'm done.
Should you really be out of work at such a young age, or should we carry on working?
I work hard for the money. So hard for the money.
Let's take a look at Quora, where someone's asked, why does the military offer retirement after 20 years of service? Isn't 38 too young to retire? Let's find out. So Stephen here says, I retired after 20 years of service as an army infantryman. 20 years in the military requires a lot of sacrifice. One of those sacrifices is physical. Being in the infantry is rough on the body. I've been unceremoniously thrown off the side of a mountain. Dropped out of a helicopter. Had to endure Arctic temperatures as well as desert temperatures. I got pinned between 2.5 ton truck and a 10,000 gallon water trailer. I've had to go days without sleep, food, or even quiet of any kind. I've slept on top of cow patties, in rivers, in holes in the ground, in snowbanks, and once even tied to a tree. The sacrifice is not just physical though, it's also rough on the mind. While my peers were busy finding themselves, and partying away their early 20s at college or dancing the night away on the strip, I was deployed to foreign lands, and it was for a good part of that time. I missed almost all the big firsts that happened in the family. I never saw my children take their first steps. I was never home when they said their first words. I just came home one day after being deployed, and they were walking and talking. And there we go, we've got a picture here. The dad is just crossed out. Once I made the rank of sergeant, 2.5 years in, resigned myself to the fact that any major holiday would probably find me at the duty desk, so the troops could be home. When I was overseas, it was pretty rare to have Christmas, Thanksgiving, or New Year's with the family. When my mother died, I hadn't seen her in over 2 years because of deployment, and by the time I got back to the United States, all the funeral arrangements had already been made and finalised. I barely made it back in time for the wake. I was deployed for months on end in Arctic conditions and in the desert. I spent most of my time in my 20s and 30s in foreign countries. I have no old high school friends because by the time I got back, they were all gone. If you could think of a civilian job that requires that much sacrifice, I am all for letting them retire early. They deserve it. So Daniel here says, as far as I'm concerned, you guys should retire early with a generous pension, great medical, etc. Hopefully with access to further education if you want to work in the civilian field. Being pinned between a truck and a water tank sounds freaking terrifying. And John here says, this was another lie. I was told if I gave them 20, I would have Medi all my life. It expires the month you turn 65, unless you pay for Medicare. So at 70, I'm getting my pension, SS, and still driving 40 to 50 hours a week. I don't know what SS is. So I can imagine a demanding job like that. I do think you need to retire early because you're just going to be physically and mentally knackered, to be honest, and you need some time. Nick here says, well, it's a hard job and after 20 years, your young body has taken a pounding and it isn't so young anymore. It's a bit like ballet, in fact. Stay with me. Got a picture of a ballet dancer here. My late wife was a professional dancer. She started training aged 8, dancing on stage from 20 to 30, and then she retired. Yep, she retired at 30. She has endured many years of very hard physical and mental training, sore muscles, badly damaged feet, requiring painful operations, a broken bone, semi-starvation to the point that her period stopped, and exhaustion. At 30, she gave up full-time dancing because her body had had enough. She carried on in what you might call a volunteer ballet reserve until she died at the age of 59. That's quite young. Admittedly, the most that was thrown at her was red roses from the audience, and no one tried to kill her, but I was astonished at how dedicated, resilient, and tough she was. So if you're in the military and retire after 20 years with an army pension, I suspect you're in a similar position, except that you've got a pension. She had none. And she was not paid a fortune for doing what she did. Some careers just vary. Some careers are just very, very demanding, and you just cannot keep up doing them for long. Sarah says, this may be the first time I've seen someone compare these two very different careers, but you nailed it, Nick. Jan says, do something physically demanding and it will take a heavy toll. Same in sports, where people might well out in their 20s from injuries or heavy wear. I would imagine the feet, legs, hips, and the back of a 20-year-long ballet dancer to look like an orthopedic war zone. Did she have problems coming from that later? Nick said she had painful operations on her feet. Yeah, so doing any sort of hard physical exercise, long periods of time, probably wear your body down, and in the end you end up needing a hip replaced or a knee replaced. There might be ways around that if you're able to. It's doing exercise in ways that your body can recover from and adapt from. But if you're on a daily basis being forced to do these things because it's your job, like military, that sort of thing, you don't have a chance for the body to fully adapt to it, so it's probably going to wear and tear. I think wear and tear happens no matter what, so just do what you think's best, really. So Adam here says, I'll be calm and answer this how I would answer other questions that piss me off, with as much grace as I can summon. So what, is he pissed off then? What I have a feeling a question like this comes from is a view that the military is like this. And I've got a picture here, a bunch of people marching, and it says, stand your line, boys. That's how we win wars. Or maybe you think it's like this. And now we've got everyone lying down, they're doing shooting practice, you can see the targets in the background. What is your major malfunction, Private Pyle? What questions like this fail to realise is that these are your neighbours, and that they have been trained to absolutely annihilate bad guys. We are ordinary human beings living next to you, and that we have trained to do the least humane thing out there, kill other people. And we've been trained and equipped very well. We get a lot of support from the American people, and we go and kill for them. Overall strategy is way above our heads, but we kill for it anyway. Your best friend dies next to you, so you kill more. As if the prospect of killing other people wasn't enough, what zero other jobs have is an opponent actively trying to kill you. How safe do you feel? Monday, January 1st, 2024, are you worried about an artillery shell coming for your position? But you're only in combat for a short time, you say. How often does that even happen? To that, I would ask exactly how many times should I put my life in danger for you to qualify for retirement? And the guys behind the scenes, our logistics team, I guess they get nothing because they weren't shot at. Life in the military is extremely taxing on the heart and the soul of every serviceman, in a way that is truly indescribable, because every service member's experience is different. But if you make it to 20, goddamn, you earned it. Thank you for your service. That was a good post, actually. I quite like that. Reminds me of a documentary. Well, I went through this binge of watching World War I documentaries, and I was imagining being in the trenches and people, like, they might not have even seen combat. They were just in the trenches. They hear the shells going off, and they were calling it shell shock back then. It's like post-traumatic stress disorder. So you've got the shells going off, you see people dying, and that's just like enough to be like, you've broken mentally. People are just breaking down, they don't want to engage, they want to retreat, or they might hurt themselves to get themselves out of combat. It's fascinating, but imagine actually being there. It's terrifying, isn't it? So you'd bloody want to retire after that, wouldn't you? But then is retirement, after that sort of situation, retirement, all you're going to be thinking about is those horrible things that happened. Or yeah, you can see why it takes a long time to recover from these sort of things. So some people don't, because those memories are just so lodged in there. It is fascinating. I know I'm talking about World War I, but it was a period of time that I'm quite fascinated in general. So this guy's just reminded me of that. I think we've read some interesting things here. I think, yeah, they should be able to retire after all of that. Sounds like really hard work, and I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm just sat here in my nice room talking to you guys. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please press that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.